Next here on Ana Cabrera reports, a wave of national security ousters is sweeping the White House and raising alarm as a conspiracy theorist appears to claim credit. Overnight, a defense official and 3 other sources tell NBC the director of the National Security Agency and his deputy were fired. This just following the forced exit of 3 others from the National Security Council. And again, appearing to take credit for those firings is right-wing activist Laura Loomer, who recently met with President Trump in the Oval Office. Now, Loomer has 0 national security experience, has espoused conspiracy theories claiming 9/11 was an inside job. She's made false claims about mass shootings and faced criticism for anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant posts online. Here was the president yesterday when asked about Loomer.
What did she recommend?
She recommended certain people for jobs.
Adding to the administration, not
Adding.
Who did she
not
recommend?
firing?
Well, she'll recommend that too. But yesterday she recommended some people for jobs.
Did she have anything to do with the NSC aides who were ousted?
No.
Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake and former Democratic Congresswoman Jane Harman, former ranking member of the Intelligence Committee and President Emerita of the Wilson Center. Garrett, what is the White House saying about these national security ousters, and have they given any credence to Loomer's claim that she made recommendations?
Anna, they're saying nothing at all. What we have so far is what you just heard there from the president, which I think we have to take with an enormous grain of salt, given that Loomer was on social media yesterday calling for the firing of individuals in the national security space. I reached out to the NSC today. They referred me to the Pentagon, who said that it would be the Pentagon's decision whether or not to keep this general at the top of the NSA and his deputy in place. There's a bit of a difference here because the people who were fired yesterday, who worked for the National Security Council in the White House, were folks who were hired by the Trump team. These are folks who were brought in to work just specifically for this president, whereas the firings at the National Security Agency are career people who have been there for decades. That is often used against officials in Donald Trump's Washington. If you worked for Joe Biden or if you work for anyone who's perceived to have been a Trump enemy, that can sometimes be used against you. But the silence here from the White House is deafening and leading Laura Loomer's version of events to be the one that is sticking. And it's worth noting that this tension between Loomer and other staffers, advisors around the president goes back quite a long time. The president has always viewed Loomer as a valuable asset. His team during the campaign certainly did not. They ultimately briefly banned her from the campaign plan when she was advising the president around that debate with Vice President Harris.
What is it that he likes so much about her?
I think he feels like she will tell it to him straight, or at least tell him what he wants to hear. I mean, the president values loyalty above almost every other personal characteristics. Loomer is certainly loyal to him, and she has her own view of others who are loyal to him. I think the president likes that she sort of pierces the bubble of paid advisors around him. I've heard it told to me by other people in the president's orbit that sometimes if you're not taking his money, if you don't work directly for him, he values your opinion a little bit more because he doesn't necessarily think that you are just repeating what he wants to hear. So in that way, I think she might provide something that he perceives of value to him in terms of advice or how things are being perceived from the outside, from his base, which is so important to him.
Garrett Haake, appreciate your reporting. Thanks. Congresswoman, we mentioned Loomer's history of conspiracy theories, of racist statements. You were steeped in national security and intelligence space. So how concerning is it that someone like this is advising the President of the United States on, of all things, national security?
Well, you just reported that she has no national security experience. There are others on the Trump team who also don't, and so we ended up with something like Signalgate. I think what's going on here is that unwittingly he is coupling a potential economic recession with a national security recession. I'm worried about both, but on the second, where I know a lot more, I'm very worried about a massive cyber attack on U.S. soil, which this Commission on National Security Strategy I chaired was warned about, and we're going to be dark. The head of Cyber Command in the Pentagon is a 34-year, 4-star general appointed in a non-political way to succeed a fabulous guy, Paul Nakasone, as the head of our NSA, which is our signal intelligence branch, plus the Cyber Command. It makes absolutely no sense to remove them. And the White House firings, all I can imagine is that he's lost confidence in Mike Waltz, and that firing all the people closest to Waltz is a way to cause Waltz to resign and maybe take because he admitted or claimed that Signalgate was his responsibility. But where does that leave the United States?
Right.
It isn't his first responsibility the security of our country, both economically and in terms of our national security? I don't see any of these moves making any sense in either direction.
I mean, I just want to emphasize what you pointed out. These NSA officials who were ousted have deep expertise. Both are career officials. Wendy Noble was there since 1987, has worked her way up through. So these aren't like Biden appointees, even though, you know, one of the reasons we've heard they've been let go is a lack of loyalty to Donald Trump. And you mentioned that General Hawk has 30 plus years of defense experience, intel experience. He led U.S. Cyber Command. I mean, what does that loss mean for the U.S.? How will these people be replaced?
That loss is absolutely huge. And oh, by the way, suggesting that the Inspector General of the Pentagon investigate now what happened with Signalgate is also kind of nonsensical, since all the IGs were removed. This must be a political appointee, and presumably this was done so that Congress wouldn't investigate. Where does that leave us? In a terrible place. Congress, pay attention here. Roger Wicker and Jack Reed, the chairman and ranking member of Senate Armed Services, have been enormously brave. And if they, on a bipartisan basis, step up and look at all this immediately, I think that would be very helpful. I'm not trying to be partisan about this. I'm trying to be reasonable about this. We all take it, or I did, we all members of Congress, and certainly the president, to protect our national security and respect the Constitution. And summary firings with no reasons given are not the history of the United States of America.
Former Congresswoman Jane Harman, I appreciate your perspective and insights. Thanks for being with us.